afternoon. I welcome all of you to the HDFC Investors Conference and our guest, Mr. Deepak Parekh, as the compere just told you, doesn't need an introduction, but I just want to point out that at the moment, the interest among investors is to really know how to interpret the government, how to interpret the economy, how to interpret the myriad hopes that are floating by, and the basis on which there is so much of stock market enthusiasm. Now, one of the best interlocutors between government and business over the last 25 years that I have been reporting has been Mr. Deepak Parekh. When the government is in trouble, it has always reached out to Mr. Deepak Parekh. We know that when it is in trouble with Satyam, and it's happened even much earlier with Unit 64, it has reached out to Mr. Deepak Parekh. I have a list of the committees that he has chaired or been a member of, and practically all of them are areas in which the government has wanted some commercial advice with some public good informing it. Just to read a few, the high-level committee on infrastructure, the chairman of the expert committee on power, he's the chairman of the CERC compensation committee, the tariff committee, which recently advised the CERC on how to go about the tricky issue of pricing power and passing through the higher cost of coal. And the list can go on: oil and gas, trade and industry. He's also been in the Bihar State Industrial Investment Advisory Council and many others, railways, just about every bit of infrastructure. So when we want to understand government, when we want to understand the economy, I guess Mr. Deepak Parekh is the best person that we can reach out to. A lot of foreign investors also are part of this conference, so they will need even more interpretation of the government. But can I start on a personal note, Mr. Parekh? After being such an interlocutor, does it hurt that HDFC is being called foreign?
Obviously, it hurts the maximum. We have totally Indian board, we have totally Indian management, we don't have major foreign operations. And where it hurts is that now the government has asked us to allocate 2% on CSR. Every little donation we make, we have to ask the recipient, are you FCRA compliant? Because our donation is considered as a foreign donation. And the money is made only in India.
But you have a
lending in India.
No, but you have a problem, isn't it? You are an Indian owner for your insurance company, but you are a foreign owner for your banking company. So let me start.
This is how government works.
Okay, so let me start exactly over there. In financial sector itself, there is an FSLRC. It doesn't touch everything. But if you have to name the top 2 or 3 things that the government has to set right, what would it be? You, as the arch-Indian representative of India Inc., have these confusions. A lot of FIs, last week told us that it is still a problem getting registered in India. So if 2 or 3 things have to be set right, what would it be?
No, I think so far as the financial sector is concerned, I think the priorities the government has is recapitalization of public sector banks. This is a priority because Basel III timing will come soon. We have, as you see, a bank's balance sheet. There are 3 categories. There is the non-provision, NPAs, provision for bad debts. Then there is the restructured assets, and now there are SMAs, specially mentioned accounts. Now, if you put all the 3 together, it is a mind-boggling number in some ways. And we need to recapitalize the banks. There may be government banks, but the need is there. And I think the finance minister has said recently somewhere that we are ready to bring down equity for all public sector banks to 52%. Because some are 55, some are even 80. So you will see more stock of public sector banks coming into the market. But recapitalization long term, is government willing to dilute below 51? I don't think government will. How will they get more capital? They're not willing to. And they do not, we are a capital scarce country. Government should use their resources in health, education, rural development, agriculture, and not put money in banks. So either we have cross holdings, or we have a holding company where a government puts all its shares into one and then sells those or we have voting, non-voting shares. There are a number of ways you can do it, but it's not the easiest. It's not the cleanest way of doing it.
You would think the cleanest is that they reduce stake.
They reduce the stake. And of course they have to give permanent tenure, longer tenure to the MDs. They can segregate. They are talking about segregating the chairman's role. They are talking of consolidation of nationalized banks. These are all priorities in the banking sector. I would say the second is that there must be at least a dozen reports in the last 25 years of how to build a debt market in India. There is no debt market in India, private debt market. And you won't believe it, I was one of the very first committees which Mr. Ferwani chaired, was the establishment of the National Stock Exchange. And there was so much opposition from within the country, the Bombay Stock Exchange, and there was lobbying. So in fact, if you see that report, which may be 20 years old or earlier, the purpose of National Stock Exchange was to become a debt market player. But even then we don't have a deep, liquid, deep debt market. And therefore the infrastructure companies, the power companies have to depend on bank funding. So we have to develop a debt market. We have a well-established DSEC market, but we do not have a well. Now, one way of developing this is really to allow pension funds, insurance companies, increase the allocation. The allocation of insurance companies hasn't changed for a long time. And IRDA rightly says that unless the government passes the insurance bill and passes on the powers to IRDA, they can increase the allocation to debentures and bonds of private companies. So this is another priority we need to have. Today at least there are a large number of players. In the past there was just one buyer of bonds, which was LIC and GIC and its subsidiaries to some extent. But now we have so many insurance companies and they're small, but they'll all grow over a period of time. So we have to change the investment pattern.
Well, just to complete this banking argument, the government believes that it has achieved its Jan Dhan goal before time. 7.5 crore accounts have been opened. What's your sense? Is this a target chasing?
I think they have opened 7.5 crores. They have raised about 5,000 crores. But 75% of these are got zero balances. So I think we need to find these accounts are necessary for government to remit money, to transfer subsidy. And when the government transfers subsidy, there will be some balance in these accounts, which the recipients can, the beneficiaries can withdraw over a period of time. But at the moment, there are very few, only 25 has some money. So 25% of 7.5 crores have put the deposits.
Yeah, no, actually there is a...
But on your earlier point, I disagree that SEBI has made FII registration very simple.
It's not.
And it is not because, we have hundreds of FII who are our shareholders, 500 or more. And some accounts are being permitted, and so I don't think SEBI... I think SEBI has really done its act well, and our markets are where they are today because of simplification.
Well, one of the big stories since May, since the election, or maybe even since last December when the state election results had come, is that there is going to be a seminal change. In the last 7 months, how would you rate the government? Has it moved to your satisfaction, or could it have done better? Or do you think this big hope will run out for want of action from the government?
I would put it that the hope, the euphoria, the excitement is still there.
It's very much there.
It's very much there, despite almost 6 months or something. And the changes on the ground take time. It doesn't happen overnight. And I think they're moving in the right direction. Maybe a bit slowly, but we had a truncated ministry. Now we have the ministries are built up. Many of them had dual and triple jobs, roles to play. And I think we must give them till March, April to see that there will be change on the ground level. And I think it's premature to judge their performance. They have done a lot even now. I would say they have done a lot, and diesel is a big thing. Diesel, these direct transfers is a huge thing. Diesel subsidy, announcing that 100% FDI in railways, 100% FDI in construction, 49 in defense. I think these were bold decisions. And so, you know, you have to give them time, and in there, they have been able to do. You have to also understand that our finance minister was unwell for a long period of time. So you have to take this into account.
Easy is a bold decision in an easy time. It's only when they raise rates, when prices go up, that we can be very sure that they have stuck by their promises.
And they have been extremely lucky.
Yes,
they have been extremely lucky that global prices, commodity prices are all-time low. You know, only till April, I think it was in April or May, Brent crude was 115. Today is below 80. June. Today it is below 80. So it's huge. Coal prices have come down by 45% imported coal. And we are one of the largest importers of coal. So these benefits have...
Absolutely. That's what I'm saying. When you speak about foreign investors and even domestic investors and their expectations, the winter session has quite a few interesting bills. You already referred to the insurance bill. If the insurance bill, the GST amendment and which was the land bill, are all three taken up and see progress, you think this euphoria will continue? If any of them falter, you think that we will pay a price?
I think in India we never pay a price because we are used to
delays
and delays.
Will investors turn turtle?
No, I don't think so. I don't think so. See, land acquisition is a very complex issue. Secondly, when the UPA government introduced the bill, land acquisition bill, BJP supported it. Now to make amendments so soon, in a short period of time, it's not easy. But we have to, because that bill has to be changed if you want development.
Are you happy with what we are talking? They don't want to change the market price, but they are willing to change the processes, the conditions under which you have to take 70% consent. Does it satisfy you, the amendments?
No, it satisfies. It's much better than the earlier one, but I'm a little concerned about the annuity that they want to pay on a regular basis to the farmers. Because, you know, how do you identify these people? You know, it is very difficult. It's better to give the money for land, a higher price up front, than let them come over a period of time.
So the price doesn't worry.
I don't know, the price doesn't worry. And even the insurance bill and GST, they can introduce it, but it is 15, 16 when it can be applicable. And some states, even some BJP states have opposed. And you know, the three contentious issues are alcohol and tobacco are the main ones. I think alcohol, tobacco, and one of the petrol product. These are the three main issues where the states are a little concerned whether to include or exclude.
Okay, you yourself said that people will give them up until March, April before they pass a judgment and take a decision to move away from the country, move away from investments. I would assume they would look for the budget. Is the budget therefore likely to be seen as a do or die budget, make or break budget? If it has to be a make budget, what should it be?
No, it should be a forward-looking budget. It should talk about the next 4 or 5 years and not just 1 year. So it should encourage savings, which they have done yesterday by introducing Kisan, because we need domestic savings. You know, if you see in the last 10 years, I think at least 7 or 8 years, bank deposits have grown to lowest.
And savings itself has fallen.
Yeah, savings have fallen. And so also bank credit. And we've never seen, normally it's 15 to 17%, this time it's 10 to 12%. And a few months ago it was in single digits. So savings, we need savings. So the budget has to also encourage capital spend. You see, today when you talk to entrepreneurs, they say it is easier for us to buy a company rather than start a company. It is easier for us to buy an asset, a factory, even if it is sick, even if it is excessive debt. Because starting has so many issues. That is what we need to tackle. Why are we not encouraging people? Why are we not making it easier for people to put up factories?
Actually, that was going to be the crux of my questions to you. How to push India up from that 130th rank to 50 in ease of doing business. But let me just complete this budget issue. Do you also believe that if for some reason the budget doesn't live up to expectations, there could be a fairly devastating mood among first-time investors, or this big flood of investments, 15 billion that came into India this year?
I think again, like we expect so much from the government, we will all expect too much from the budget. It's a financial exercise.
P&L.
It's a P&L, government's balance sheet. And no other country has so much height. You may be in England and there may be a budget day no one will talk. It is only we India, we look at it, and you people have made it so important.
We should be playing up the credit policy, right?
No, you want the first person to comment on the budget 1 minute after the finance minister gives his speech. It's all very unnatural.
This is about the government, not about
you. So, I think we expect too much from the budget, but basically encourage saving. Ease of doing business is not going to be discussed in the budget. And you know the fuel subsidy has come down significantly. By having direct subsidy transfer, the leakages will stop. And so some of these issues the government is aware of. And budget will encourage investment. We need more capital investment. And I wish they come back with some incentives of investment allowance or some, in a period of time, short period.
I will revisit that when we discuss the two infrastructure industries. But before I get to those big questions of ease of doing business and the infrastructure industries, what's your sense about the growth cycle itself? Obviously, as you say, for government investment or government policies to kickstart the economy will take some doing. Do you think that the current cleanup process that is underway and the normal cyclical turn that the economy is taking, we would see investments trickling in or at least earnings growth sizably improving in the fourth quarter of the Jan-March quarter, or at least the April?
We are the best among the BRICS. We are the best performer amongst the BRICS. We are no longer part of Fragile Five.
Yes.
We are the best house in a bad neighborhood amongst emerging markets. And as Bill Gross puts it, we are the cleanest, dirtiest shirt amongst the so we have done well than everyone else.
That said, another shirt can get laundered if we keep on waiting. So I'm asking you whether cyclically you think anyway earnings are looking like...
See, for instance, food production is not going to be higher than last year. In fact, they are expecting 3 to 4 million tons less from 265 to 260, 61. Because the monsoons were about 7% below normal. That is the expectation. So there will be pressure on food inflation because we've not had a bumper harvest compared to the previous year. So there will be some pressure points. And
so you think growth could take beyond April, beyond June?
Growth, we cannot get to 9% growth overnight.
Not 9, I'm only expecting 6.
No, 0.5 to 0.75 is the maximum per year you will see. Whatever the government does. So you will slowly get to 6, 7, 8 over the 5-year period, you may get to 8%. But if we take right steps, because there are a large number of reforms which the government needs, which are non-legislative. And many of them are state-related. So states have to start. We need police reforms back. We need land reforms you talked about. We need judicial reforms. Today you heard the Maharashtra Chief Minister has appointed maximum number of judges. There are 40% vacancy in judges in high courts in Maharashtra. What did Prime Minister Modi do? In the first 2 months, very few people noticed. He filled the Supreme Court. It has the maximum permissible limit. It had one shot. And because cases have to be faster. This is ease of business also. You get to know faster. Whether you are right or wrong, or you have to pay, or you don't have to pay taxes. So this is part of ease of doing business. So administrative reforms.
So what is ease of business according to you? To pull it up from 130 to 50 is a long way. But even if you have to come 10 points, what's the 4, 3 low-hanging fruit, or at least the crucial ones?
Single window clearances. If you own a plot of land, you need 57 approvals. If you even own a plot of land. Even if you say you are making 400 square feet homes for the poorest one, you still need the same. We are talking of a government's trust in affordable housing. Why can't you make affordable housing in a single way? Let faster construction. Let housing shortages be reduced. Let slums be reduced. But even affordable housing, if you have to go through the same rigmarole and the same approvals, why would anyone do affordable homes? The margins are the least in affordable homes. That's why builders are not constructing affordable homes. There are a few, but very few.
But some of these clearances can easily be
For
reduced.
putting up factories also, we need to have single window. We need to have, let the government departments work together and say we need permission. If we have land, like earlier MIDC used to give land, or different states have the industrial land. Now you have to go through auction. No, but availability of developed land is also. So the states need to do a lot of work, because if the states do not comply, whatever the center does, you will not increase your GDP. The states have to perform.
So Mr. Modi has to take them. Well, let me come to the specific ministries. The railway ministry is the one that actually got a lot of positive vibes in the market. One, because Mr. Prabhu rendered a fairly good account of himself in 2003 with the Electricity Act and cleaning up of that sector. Though after 15 years we seem to be back to square one, he certainly did seminal work. What will you advise him to do first in railways?
Well, Suresh Prabhu is an old friend. He's a brilliant individual. He's the most honest person I've known in my life.
That's saying a lot coming to the railways.
We are expecting a lot from him. He's very hardworking, he's sincere, and he said that safety is first. We have to improve safety. Safety standards in India are very important. How many deaths are there? Accidents, people crossing lines, falling off trains. Probably the worst in the world. So safety, I think we need. Incidentally, about a year ago, the UPA government had formed a committee on railways under Sam Pitroda, and I was a member of it. I think that committee, we had 26 meetings, and we submitted a report to the then railway minister. I hope Mr. Prabhu looks at it, because that was, I'm going to tell him, please look at it, because don't form another committee. This is there. Forget it's UPA or it's but there was no one from Congress. We were all professionals trying to work on it. And because it has guidelines how to go about it. You see, we need faster trains, we need cleaner platforms, we need cleaner,
First of all, I don't know if the committee attended to this issue. Is railways department, should it be run like government, like a service, or should it be run like business? I mean, is it like education, rural development, or is it like running a corporate?
5-6 years ago, they came out with the first tender of inviting companies to make electric locomotives in Bihar. 3 times the bids had been made. They've not yet been approved. The factory would be running and coming with modern bogies. And there were a lot of interest from a number of firms. Half a dozen, 4-5 firms bid for it.
But that's the point. So
because once there was only one company, once there were 5, they never opened the financial tender, they opened the technical. And this is what we need. We've got land there. It's a poorer state. We want employment. Making bogies is not that technology. This thing, you need labor, you need people. Why don't we give it, you get 10,000
Is the problem that it's a department-run service, it should be corporatized? What would you have Mr. Prabhu do first to reassure you?
I think basically people are scared in today's day and age of taking decisions. Because they're always, even now. No, but even then there's always that fear that 10 years later you'll come back on it. So that fear should be there. And with Prabhu being there, I think that fear is no. And I think Suresh will be able to do a great job. And when Prime Minister went to Japan and all, he talked with the Japanese and the Chinese that how do we bring more efficient railways, fast railways, express trains into India. Because mind you, we can run down the railways and the services are poor, the deck safety standards are not there, but the number of passengers it carries, the number of trains is
23 crores a day.
It is a mind-boggling number. And I think we must give credit to that it is still going on despite lack of equipment, lack of capital spend, lack of...
you're being very charitable, sir.
Huh?
Here's a business where you get the money 60 days in advance and it's a
monopoly
business.
Also, booking has improved.
It's a supplier's market and it's running at 30,000 crore losses. job is cut out. As you could be a little harsher with it. He's your friend.
No, in the sense that, there is the way the accounting is done in railways. They have to pay a dividend.
Yes, they have.
And the government gives them money again. So, they have to clean it up as an independent organization. And then they can stand on their feet. They can do borrowing also, rather than depend on government funding.
Do you think industry kicks up on its own? Or do you think it happens only if the government starts its DMIC or freight corridor? The Delhi-Mumbai corridor, especially after the visit to Japan, was expected to kick off quickly, and looks like plans are in advance stage. Will that be the kick-off stage? Will that be necessary to kick off?
It certainly helps the kick-off because, new towns, better transport, broader roads. So, it definitely, but it will kick off according to me from the Delhi side and Bombay side. We should start from the two sides because that's where density is, that's where demand is, that's where need is, and then slowly come down to the center.
Then hopefully that advice is taken. Now I guess I'm running out of time. Then I will have to come back to the topic which I like most, interest rates. What are you expecting from Rajan on December 2nd? And according to you, is it right that we should be concentrating on inflation and kill that beast before making any flip-flop?
Let the poor man do his job. Why is everyone advising him what to do? He's a grown-up, mature, intelligent adult. He knows his responsibility. And everyone is advising him, from government to bureaucrats to everyone, what he should do. Wait for a week, you'll know what he's doing.
I'm really flattered by that reply, Mr. Parekh. But that's not how the government behaves. Even very recently, we had statements from the government, from the finance minister, almost exhorting him. But to be very fair to the finance minister, he has not sounded cocky and he has not sounded like he's strong-arming. Do you think if it came to that, India would lose the credibility that it has gained with such
No, in the sense that my personal view is that interest rates have to be linked with inflation. Inflation rates have certainly come down, both WPI, CPI. However, in order to justify a reasonable amount of interest rate cut, you must have continuity of 3, 4, 5 months. If you want the governor to keep changing interest rates on a periodic basis because some numbers have come down, he will take, without risk, he'll do 0.25%. It doesn't move the needle. So it is better to wait for a sustainability of reduction in inflation and then do a larger cut in interest rate which helps the economy. Otherwise it just disappears. So my personal view is, although inflation has come down, food inflation has come down, but we talked a little earlier about food production not high. It's lower this year. So you never know when that inflation will be.
So it's worth the wait for one more.
It could be worth the wait, or because of the pressure, he may be able to do a 25, 50 basis points, but
So your advice would be for the government not to strong arm it.
Yeah, let him do his job.
Well, that's a fair point. I really wish that stands.
I think Finance Minister did say that for higher growth, you need lower interest rates.
You believe that?
It's true. Yes, that's true. But then you have to, who has looked at agriculture? Why is no one concentrated on how to reduce food inflation? Why is no one looking at it? There should be a special group looking at how do we reduce food production. How do we reduce food inflation? And if you talk to the farmers, and if you talk to and do some study in rural areas, they say the cause of inflation in food is because of decay. Because of decay, the food grains are lying outside, and the lorries and the trucks do not come on time. They come months later from food quality. And so the transportation takes time, then the state of transportation, the warehouses are not proper, the redistribution is not good. Why doesn't someone look at that? Why don't we look at the problem? Let's try and reduce food inflation, rather than tell the governor reduce interest rate because 2 months food inflation.
Fair point, sir. Well, now, do you think that the kind of macroeconomic correction we have had, bringing the rupee out of the fragile file, as it were, it's almost now likely that we will not even have a flutter if the Fed were to hike rates. As well, inflation, as you've seen, it has come down. We have to wait and see if it's sustainable. Do you think the country now merits a rating upgrade? When would you expect?
I think it's a little bit like interest rates, that S&P and Moody's take their own time. They are quick to downgrade, but they are slow to upgrade. And they want continuity, to see progress continue. But I'm quite confident that in a couple of months you will see an upgrade.
2 months, so that's...
2-3 months you will see an upgrade.
And now finally for a question that perhaps you are best placed to answer. The NBFCs and the slew of rules that the Reserve Bank has brought to kind of graduate them into banks. How do you look at this entire process? You can become, an NBFC can become a payments bank, it can become a small bank which really looks very attractive. Originally the small bank, the draft rule said that they have to be only in geographically contiguous territory of one state. Now even that geographical constraint is going to be removed. We understand, the governor said that himself. How do you look at this NBFC space? Do you think this is the way to go to graduate them to banks of one form or the other?
Supervision of financial companies is a good idea. And NBFCs should not become like informal bank, shadow bank. The biggest problem China today is shadow bank. And every investor is worried about the size of it. So I think anticipating, seeing what's happening in China, we should not let ourselves get to that stage. And if an NBFC becomes a bank, it's regulated, it's supervised. And before doing that, the Reserve Bank is trying to have the same rules that are applicable to a bank. And one thing they did was they are not allowing NBFCs to raise public deposits. Because that's a hue and cry. When an NBFC which takes retail deposit fails, it's answerable to the people and common people. But in this NBFC, they've said that they've given transition time of 3 years, 4 years, and even on NPAs, they're saying provision should be 90 days, not 180 days, capital adequacy. So I think we are moving in the right direction. And some of the NBFCs, see, the NBFC is what as a regulator would worry about an NBFC, loans against shares. They give massive loans against
capital market exposure.
But it's loans against shares. Secondly, they give loans against land because we are not able to fund land. Banks and housing finance are prohibited. We are trying to tell the Reserve Bank, allow us to fund land because land is the biggest component. Why do you want builders, developers to borrow money at 20 and 22% from NBFCs to buy land, and then 3 years later when they get approvals, they come to us? They increase the cost of the house. And it was done at a time, I remember when it was done, it was a time when it was done when land prices became a bubble. When the RBI felt that there was a bubble. There is no bubble now. There are thousands of flats available all across the country. And prices have come down whether you admit it or not. If you go with cash, every developer will bring down the price if you're willing. So I think that is the other activity, land and financing.
Okay, finally for our the sponsors, the promoters of this function itself, there going to be competition for you. It's going to be an IDFC bank.
That's why I resigned as chairman.
When do you see them becoming an HDFC bank?
No, we had the advantage of many years of operation.
First movers, so to speak.
It's tough. It takes time.
Well, that's a warning as well as an invitation to struggle. Gentlemen, that's it in terms of what Mr. Deepak Parekh had to make in terms of preliminary comments. I believe Anish Damania will take over from here. You would like to sit here and moderate?
This is opening the floor to question, basically. So that's one. All right. So,
Yeah, hello. Mahesh here from Exide Life Insurance. The banking system is flush with liquidity. Deposit rates have come down almost by 100 bps or more. Why the banking system, when the loan credit is at much lower rate, has not yet reduced bank rates? And when do you expect that to happen?
There is no investment opportunity. Absolutely, other than retail lending, lending opportunity is so limited today that even if you reduce lending rates, you are not making money. So how do you pass it on?
Sure. Thanks.
So one of the suggestions you made right now was to kickstart the capex and investment cycle to reconsider things like the investment allowance. Now, isn't it true that the investment allowance in some ways distorts the capital allocation process? And isn't it better for us to look at more long-term solutions on how to create more sustainable demand, rather than look at these quick fixes that, as I said, distort the capital allocation process?
I couldn't hear you properly, but I think you're questioning that instead of giving investment allowance, we should increase the demand.
We take steps to stimulate demand, because once
Stimulate the demand.
Because if demand gets
You see,
stimulated,
no, that is true, but it is again a vicious circle. Once you give incentives to people to build, there will be surplus stock, prices come down, availability increases, and this is how the circle, even in the past, how many times we have introduced investment allowances and taken it away also in the last 20, 30 years. We've given stocks for 2 years. If you build housing within 2 years of small area, you will get tax benefit of this amount. So how to give a thrust to investment? And it's like an injection, and effect will last for 1 or 2 years, and then they'll remove it. It's just to have that initial thrust that this benefit is there if you put a factory in the next 2 years. If you don't, it go away. So we need that kind of fillip, that kind of incentive, that kind of carrot for our entrepreneurs to take the risk, because the tax level is low if they start trying. India's demand will be there. 17% of world population is in India. The middle classes are increasing. You've seen the revolution in two-wheelers, in telecom, what has happened. In 14 years, from 1% tele-density, we've gone up to 80%. And urban has gone well over 100%. Because of affordability, because of access.
how about reducing tax rates or cost structure, putting more consumption in the hands of consumers, thereby reviving demand, and reducing government expenditure? You know, shouldn't that be a more a long-term solution towards bringing back the capex cycle?
Absolutely, reducing government expenditure, wasteful government expenditure is the only way. But if you see the food subsidy, the fuel subsidy, and the fertilizer subsidy, it is over 2 lakh crores. It is even more now that the diesel and others, diesel is gone, subsidy from diesel is gone. It may be lower, but it's still about 2 lakh crores subsidy for the 3 F's, food, fuel and fertilizer. Now, is this subsidy properly utilized? Is it directed in the right way? Is it being used properly to reduce the end product cost? I agree we should, I don't think government can reduce taxes because we are fairly low in taxes globally. But there is certainly a huge scope of reduction of government taxes. Take for instance, how many, there are 79 sick PSUs, 79 sick. And the 4 companies with maximum losses are Air India, MTNL, BSNL and Hindustan Photo Films. Now, recently the government has taken a view that we must close these. At least they're talking about it. The previous government never talked about closing. So we need to, that is where the excessive government expenditure is there, funding the sick PSUs. So that is a very good point. How do we reduce government expenditure?
Hi sir, this is Vijay Sada from IDBI Federal Life. So just a question or thought on, in India we have seen financial saving not being much higher, and in fact if you look at the physical saving in the gold and real estate is quite strong. So one angle to look at it is the kind of black money that gets stacked in these 2 assets because there is no compliance to the KYCs or other thing that the banking system now require. So what is the thought process that government need to put into place in order to direct saving to a more productive use than the static investment which goes into two of these asset classes?
The Indian women's desire for gold and man's weakness to surrender to that is killing our economy. I don't know, if you see even these 6-8 months, the import of gold has been so significantly higher. What we did last 12 months, we've done in 8 months. And so again the government is talking about putting some import curbs. Why do we need gold? What do we do with gold? And the sad part is that mutual funds, insurance companies are not getting funds. Insurance companies and mutual funds are saving directed in the right way because they generate employment, they lend, they generate growth. But if you see, barring the last 3-4 months when mutual funds have started getting some money, mutual funds were struggling, insurance companies are struggling, and the attitude of a younger generation person is, why should I buy a 30-year, 20-year insurance policy? And these are directed savings, and real estate. Now, I think people have realized that real estate investment is not a good investment. I know many people who have been stuck with investments in housing, second house, third house. Now they want to sell, they can't get a buyer. They want to lease, they can't get a tenant. And they are stuck with vacant homes. So now they realize that investment in housing is not a good investment. I hope they realize that gold is not a good investment. Then they will be channelized to productivity, as you say.
Second thought on this PSU bank, means we have at one time an example of HDFC, which is at the best of all the ratios that we compare across the globe. And when we look at the PSU state of the PSU banks, I think it is known to everyone at large, including the government. But we have not seen many things improving. So every cycle, first cycle goes, I think more of the pain recur again. So last 2002-03 power, everything has been done in terms of SCTs and all that. Same thing recur in 2011-12. So subsequently all across. So if you look at the state affairs in PSU, it's not changing, and in fact there are so many banks, as you rightly said, need to have consolidation. So what should be government, is that agenda on the government side that they are not in the business of doing business but more of doing the governance?
Well, you know our Prime Minister's famous word, maximum governance, minimum governance. So if they do that, then that means, in other words, it is government has no business to be in business. But we've not yet seen that. We have to see some sales of public sector companies. We have to, even this disinvestment, 8 months have gone. Now we are hearing 10% of coal and 5% of ONGC. Because we have got a target of 58,000 crores for fiscal, to get a 4% fiscal deficit, which is also very improbable. But at least we have to get 58,000. And you have last 2-3 months where you have to do massive disinvestment.
Thank you, sir.
Good evening, sir. Shatru Daman from Life Insurance Corporation of India. My question is regarding the social indicators of a country. As we know that people talk about the demographic dividend that we have. Do you think with the percentage of GDP to sectors like education and health, can we really call it a dividend right now? Because see, I mean, if we don't have a population that is healthy, educated, as we all know that most of our education institutions also don't feature in the world's best. And the point I'm trying to make is the present government also looking at these very essential elements? We all know that they are looking at minimum government and maximum governments. They are trying to take out the old, the sick PSUs, trying to encourage the corporate sector. But these sectors are, action has to be done from the government side. Do you think in the coming few years, right actions will be taken?
I am very hopeful that right action will be taken, but your point is that as a country we are spending very little on health and education. And the percentages of 2, 3, 4% also we don't spend on health and education, and this must double over a period of time. But to double, we have to reduce government expenditure somewhere else so that health and education get a larger allocation. Now the benefits of health and education takes a long time. It doesn't give instant results in GDP or numbers of growth. Because it takes time to educate people and all that. So it is a slow process, investing more, but it's the government's responsibility to invest, to protect their citizens, to give them health facilities, to give them education. So we have to increase. Now you are Life Insurance Corporation. You can solve all problems of India, the amount of balance sheet size you have. You should spend more money, you should buy more equities. Why let FIIs make money only?
And we'll just take one last question if there is one.